Listen, what's happening is, I think there are new things being introduced in the Catholic Church. I really do. I think we can see there's a programme. Well, not a kind of so heavily organised programme, not so specific, but there's a programme, like Francis saying in Singapore, 13th of September, Friday 13th of September this year, all religions are paths to God. One can try and explain it away, doesn't work to me. This, Fiducia Supplicans, last year, doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. There's clearly a programme, and what's happened is, popes like John Paul II, even Benedict to an extent, John Paul II and Paul VI, they've prepared the ground, unwittingly, but they've prepared the ground for this. And Francis is the man who's going to advance it. Now, what do I say? I mean, if I had a kid, I wouldn't let Francis teach my kid Catholicism. Now, that's a terrible thing to say. How can I say that? But I wouldn't, because I know he'd be coming saying, Daddy, the Hindus are going to heaven. The Buddhists, the cannibals are going to heaven, Daddy. You know, I couldn't have that. I couldn't have that at all. So this means there's a real problem in me or in the leadership of the Catholic Church. And because I think I'm sane, because I think I know enough, not enough in general, but enough about in this subject of salvation and the church and so on, that these guys now who are in charge are going against the Catholic faith. And I don't know what to make of it, because I'm not a schismatic. So I could say that I've got to belong to the Catholic Church, I've got to accept the authority of the Pope, I've got to accept the papacy. Jesus established all this. I can only deduce this, that it's all going to be smashed to pieces very soon. That maybe Rome is going to be levelled. That all the hierarchy is going to be killed. And that there'll be a restoration. But because this is a system Jesus set up, and because it never went wrong for 19 centuries, I mean, you can read Pope Hormisdas, Pope Agatho. In the early centuries, these men were making statements about the Catholic faith, which Easterners were saying, yes, we know this is the truth. We accept the authority of the Bishop of Rome. They were effectively accepting papal infallibility. I mean, the formula of Hormisdas was really strong back in the 5th century. And then after that, you get the similar kind of teachings. So Rome was the guardian of orthodoxy when the East was falling apart. You know, the rubbish of iconoclasm and even Calvinism at one point. Nowhere except Rome. And it fulfills the promise of Jesus. So how can it possibly be going wrong now? I don't know. For 19 centuries, it's all right. It's going absolutely right. Then for now, it's going wrong. I can only imagine something's happening, something different. And that lightning strike on the dome of the Vatican, a few hours after Pope Benedict announced his resignation, that to me is the signal that something has changed, that this guardian of orthodoxy is for now no longer a guardian of orthodoxy, and there's no guardian of orthodoxy on the earth anymore, and that we just have to rely on the past 19 centuries, but that something terrible is going to happen, because if there were 1,000 more years of our history to carry on with, it would be impossible for me to understand anything, because the human race needs orthodoxy in every generation. So I can't think there's one more full generation left of ordinary history, because otherwise it would mean that Catholics, say a person who's born in the year 2015, in 2035 he reaches a majority thereabouts. He could, if he's relying on the teachings from Rome now, his faith is going to be all over the place. And I don't believe Jesus would allow that, because that person will be actually going to judgments without actually having had the possibility of really knowing the truth. You'd have to rely on those internet people like me, or even more, those who are like Taylor Marshall or Michael Lofton or the Sedevacantists or whoever. And you can't do that. Jesus knows. It's like the Protestants. You can't rely on these individual theologians or big mouths. So if Rome has failed, nobody can go to hell, because there's no means of knowing the truth. And I think that's the case from about 2015 onwards. So I therefore think we must be coming to an end before 2035.